Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to BWI Marshall's virtual town hall. My name is Adrienne Trout, and I am the Director of the Maryland Aviation Administration's Office of Corporate and Community Relations. Today, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers that will share their insights about pandemic recovery for small, minority, and veteran-owned businesses. This virtual event is the second in a three-part series specifically designed to update our community of airport tenants, contractors, and MBE partners. If you'd like to participate in the upcoming contractor town hall, please email us at maatownhall@bwiairport.com. Before we begin our program, I have a few housekeeping announcements. Today's live seminar will last up to 2 hours and it is being recorded. We will send a follow-up email in the next day or so that will include the slides presented today. In addition to that, the recording. If you are experiencing audio or visual issues, please disconnect from the meeting and reconnect. If you are participating through the Teams platform, your microphone is muted. This enables our speakers to present uninterrupted. If you are calling in, please mute your phones. We are taking questions through the chat feature on your screen. To do this, you will select the Q&A button on the right side of the screen. There is an option to select Ask Anonymously. Your questions will be posed to the presenters during today's program by our own Bill Villanueva, who serves as the Deputy Director for the MAA's Office of Fair Practices. Bill is a founding member of the Maryland Hispanic Business Conference, and he also worked in the first Governor's Office of Minority Affairs under Governor Ehrlich. Any questions we are not able to cover during today's program will be answered in the follow-up email. And now, I'm delighted to introduce you to our first speaker. Governor Hogan appointed Ricky Smith as the Executive Director of the Maryland Aviation Administration in 2015. Ricky has more than 30 years of transportation leadership, including serving as the CEO of the Cleveland Airport System for 9 years. He is responsible for the planning, operation, and management of BWI Marshall and Martin State Airports, along with regional aviation activities for the entire state. Since returning to BWI Marshall, Mr. Smith has led the airport to 5 consecutive record-setting years for passengers, restoring BWI Marshall as the busiest airport in the Washington-Baltimore region and one of the top 10 airports for customer experience. The airports have received national and regional awards for customer service, capital development, and marketing, including Emmy Awards. In 2017, the Launchpad program was started to enable minority-owned micro-businesses the opportunity to participate in BWI Marshall's thriving food and retail program without barriers to entry. In 2015, he launched the BWI Marshall Youth Initiative to introduce youth in Baltimore City to careers in aviation and transportation. To date, more than 200 youth have participated in the program. Ricky has received many awards and recognition during his career. Most recently, he received the Airports Council International 2020 Leon C. Watkins Guardian Award for Excellence in Business Diversity, which honored him for his leadership and commitment to the values of diversity and inclusion. Just some of his recognition and awards include the Honorable Ray LaHood Man of the Year Award from Women in Transportation in 2019. He was named a Power 10 CEO by the Baltimore Business Journal in 2018. He was named People Who Move America by Boy Scouts of America in 2018. He received the Thomas G. Newsom Founders Leadership Award by the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials in 2018. He was named an influential Marylander by the Daily Record in 2017. He earned the Black History Hero Award from the Maryland-Washington Minority Companies Association in 2017. He was named Most Influential CEO in Northeast Ohio by Crane Magazine twice, in 2014 and 2013. Ricky was named National Executive of the Year by the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials in 2010, and he received the Congressional Achievement Award from Congressman Elijah Cummings in 2006. Mr. Smith is active on several national and local boards and industry associations, including the Airport Minority Advisory Council, where he currently serves as the chair of the board of directors, the American Association of Airport Executives, the Washington Board of Trade, the BWI Business Partnership, the World Trade Center Institute, the Greater Baltimore Urban League, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture, Morgan State School of Communications, and I hope he's going to tell us how he does all of that. Ricky holds an accounting degree from Howard University and an executive MBA from Loyola University in Maryland. He is a graduate of several leadership programs, including the Greater Baltimore Committee and Leadership Cleveland. Now we'll hear from Mr. Ricky Smith.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian. I almost didn't recognize myself as you were going that introduction. Thank you very much. But more importantly, thank everyone who's joining this webinar. You know, this is a part of a three-series effort to make sure that our important stakeholder groups are up to speed on what BWI is doing and what our partners are doing as we try to work our way through this this very nasty and challenging pandemic. And so I'm very excited to be joined by some of our more critical partners that you'll hear from later on in this presentation. So what I'll do to kind of kick this off, next slide, is to give you an overview of what we've gone through. So living through this pandemic has been somewhat the tale of two stories, tale of two cities. So we started out, as Adrian mentioned, we were on pace to having our 5th consecutive record-setting year from a passenger standpoint. And then in March, the bottom fell out. We began to succumb to traffic losses due to the economy that was falling apart as the pandemic began to work its way throughout our lives and our economy and our social lives. And so then as we kind of worked through that, we began to see some recovery as we worked our way through the 4th of July and the Labor Day weekends, which is kind of where we find ourselves now. One bright spot in all of this is that our cargo program continued to surge. We just opened last year a new 200,000 square foot facility for Amazon Prime, where they hired some 1,300 employees, and they continue to grow and continue to serve as a bright spot throughout this pandemic. The industry itself, and you can go to the next slide, is forecasting that it'll take us some 2 to 3 years to recover from this pandemic. We certainly agree with that forecast, and we're positioning ourselves to work our way through it. This slide is an illustration of just how extreme the impact has been. Again, back in March, as you get closer to the left, you'll see that at the bottom of this pandemic, or the height of this pandemic, our traffic was down some 96%. That is unheard of in this business. Today, our traffic is down around 65 to 67%. And so we've seen some recovery, but as you can tell by looking at the slides, we've kind of stalled after the 4th of July weekend. We kind of stalled at that 65 to 67% level. Next slide. But when you compare us to other airports in the region, we're actually doing quite well. This illustration is depicts the traffic that goes through our security checkpoints compared to that of other security checkpoints at the other 2 airports in the Washington region. And as you can see by the red line, which is BWI, we're faring better than the other two airports. As a matter of fact, BWI's traffic for the last 2 months, the months of June and July, which are the latest months we have to report on, we've had more traffic than Reagan National and Dulles airports combined, which is pretty remarkable given that under normal situations, we are around 37, 38%. Still the busiest airport in the region, but today we are by far the busiest in the region. In addition to that, you can go to the next slide, where we are normally the 22nd busiest airport in the country, we're now around 11th. So that not only are we faring better than other airports in the Baltimore-Washington region, we're faring better than most airports around the country, which is a good thing. And part of the reason why we're in this position, besides offering very good service, is I think we've taken some very aggressive steps to ensure a safe and secure facility for our public. And so a few months ago, we launched our Runway to Recovery program, which is a multifaceted approach to ensuring that we are addressing all the issues related to the pandemic. And so what we did was we looked at the travelers' experience coming through the airport, their trip through the airport, and we put measures in place to make sure that at each stop during that experience, that we had a plan or a series of plans in place to address that. Everything from pre-departure, before the public even makes a decision to come to the airport, we made sure that we did research on their concerns, their interests, their desires, so that we can address those. And then everything from parking to the point where they actually board an aircraft, we have measures in place to make sure that their trip through the airport is safe and as pleasant as possible. Next slide. Part of that effort involved a series of communication strategies that we thought were key to making sure that the public was both informed and aware of the measures that we were taking, with the hopes that that would allow them to feel more comfortable making a decision to fly out of our airport. And so this aspect of the campaign that you're looking at now just outlines the various measures we took to get information out. Everything from webinars, as you are participating in now. We used our website and our other social media platforms. And we also did expansive marketing and communications throughout the terminal to make sure that our customers and employees in the terminal were aware of what it takes to participate and engage in safe behavior. Next slide. We also wanted to make sure that that our traveling public felt comfortable that it was safe to fly. You know, many of our carriers, our airline partners, engaged in their own individual campaigns, but we thought it was important from an airport perspective to make sure that they understood that when you come to BWI Marshall, despite whatever concerns you might have, we've taken all the right steps to ensure that it is safe to fly. And so our Safe to Fly campaign did just that. And again, we use various media outlets to get the word out, including geofencing, where we were able to push messaging out to various devices, cell phones, PDAs, whatever, as you approach the perimeter of the airport, to make sure that you were well aware of the steps that we were taking and that you were aware of the behavior that we expect you to engage in as you approach the airport. Everything like social distancing, wearing a mask, washing your hands, and you'll hear more about that as we go through the presentation. Next slide, please. So obviously, one of the areas where we have significant congregation of people is on our buses. And so we wanted to take extra steps to make sure that when using our buses, people would be safe. And so we had a multifaceted approach there as well. As a matter of fact, in some cases, we reduced the number of bus uses. We closed our long-term and short-term parking lots, both as a cost-cutting measure, but also to use our parking facilities more efficiently. We wanted to encourage people to use our daily and hourly garages so that we could better allocate our parking shuttle services. One, to ensure social distancing, but also to manage cost. And so we have these 60-foot articulated buses that we were able to use in a strategic manner. We're able to put them on more frequent routes to ensure that there was proper spacing on the buses. And we were also able to reduce the fee that it costs to park in our hourly garage to encourage people to park in the hourly garage as opposed to our daily garage, which would reduce the number of people that have to get on our shuttle service, shuttle bus, because the hourly garage does not require shuttle service at all. Next slide, please. Throughout the terminal, you'll find an array of hand sanitizer stations, and they're always filled and ready to be used, and it's free for the customer's use. We thought this was important to make sure that where you cannot get to a restroom to wash your hands, that you could easily have access to hand sanitizer. Again, this is part of the effort, one, to show the public that we are taking steps to have a safe environment, but also facilitate the kind of behavior that we want our passengers and employees to engage in to protect their co-workers and other fellow passengers. And so we have these sanitizer stations throughout the terminal building and our rental car facility. Next slide. We also partnered with our food and retail developer, Fraport, to have installed throughout the airport terminal at BWI these PPE vending machines. And so there are items in these machines that you can purchase in the event that you come to the airport without these items. They are affordable, and these machines are placed strategically throughout the airport. Now, we'll add at this point that we also received from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, some 1.3 million masks that the airport, including all of our tenant partners, can make available to airport employees and customers free of charge upon request. So in addition to the PPE vending machines, which offers more than just masks, cleaning wipes, disposable masks, other necessities, we also make available to the traveling public free masks, and they're pretty readily available at any of our ticket counters, information desk, or anyone in the airport that you ask. That is an airport representative. They'll help you find a mask. Next slide. The key to the airport experience in this environment is that we have our passengers engage in physical distancing, and that we also protect them and our employees in those cases where physical distancing just does not work. And so we took a pretty aggressive, comprehensive effort to have both of those measures throughout the airport, both in terms of encouraging and signaling social distancing, and also installing plexiglass systems throughout the airport. Next slide. Okay. The next couple slides will illustrate the markers that we've placed throughout the terminal building to, again, facilitate or encourage physical distancing or social distancing. In this case, these are floor markers in the ticket counter area. Next slide. We also have at our security checkpoints, for example, these plexiglass systems to protect, in this case, TSA employees from passengers, and the same to protect passengers from TSA employees as well. Next slide. In our food and retail locations, we have floor markers illustrating how shoppers can engage in physical distancing or social distancing. Next slide. Next slide. Here's an illustration of the plexiglass systems we have at one of our quick serve restaurants. And I'll take this opportunity to note that, you know, the employees at the airport, both MAA employees and BWI employees, I cannot employees, right? They're out there to some degree exposing themselves to some level of risk, but they came in every day and they showed extreme professionalism and resilience throughout this pandemic. And so I've never been prouder to be a part of a community that shows so much courage. And so next slide, please. We have information counter desks throughout the airport terminal to service our passengers. This is an illustration of the plexiglass systems that were installed at the ticket counters. And as well, you see the stanchion, the black stanchion in the right presentation to ensure that, that there's some level of physical distancing from the ticket counter areas as well. Next slide. So about a year or so ago, less than a year ago, we installed these visual monitors, these digital monitors above our security checkpoints. And the purpose was to, one, provide information to our passengers, wait time information so that passengers could tell how long it might take them to get through that particular checkpoint. Other information that's important to TSA or important to the airport that we thought the public should hear. When the pandemic hit, we began to look for opportunities to introduce technology to support our efforts to facilitate social distancing. And so this crowd vision technology, which is the backbone of our digital monitors, besides having the ability to count passengers that are working their way through the checkpoints, it also has the ability to illustrate the separation of passengers. So it can give passengers an understanding of how well they are engaging in physical distancing. So the illustration up in the right-hand corner, the bubble diagram, is something, once this is fully implemented, passengers will be able to look at the digital display monitors and it will tell them as a group whether or not we are effectively engaging in physical distancing or not. It also gives our customer service agents and other employees in the airport the ability to go in those areas that we will call hotspots, for example, and encourage passengers to engage in physical distancing. And so this is a pretty neat, unexpected, unanticipated use of this technology, but we think it's going to be pretty popular. Next slide, please. So moving on to cleaning, which was, I think, probably the hallmark of our response to this pandemic. We actually engaged in a three-pronged approach to cleaning. We always clean. Airports, we engage in expansive cleaning activities all the time, right? And you know, that cleaning is to remove dirt and to remove germs. But we added to that an effort to sanitize our facilities. And so that effort is to lower the number of germs that exist in the airport. And then on top of that, which is the third prong, is an effort to actually disinfect, to kill germs. And so this three-layered approach is what we've used throughout the airport, and it's worked pretty well because we have not had any outbreaks in the airport, which is a sign that we've done a pretty effective job at disinfecting the airport. The pictures that you see to the right are pictures of employees of a local company that we partnered with called Top Dog, based in Montgomery County, that was able to introduce this Clorox-based service that we use to disinfect the terminal. Next slide. Okay, so this cleaning process is cyclical. We have our daily routine cleaning activities, and then we do periodic deep cleanings and disinfecting of those areas that are high traffic areas, like our restrooms, our hold rooms, the floors throughout the terminal, our jetways. These are, again, areas where there's high levels of traffic. That is reinforced by an effort to clean touch points throughout the airport. We have thousands of touch points throughout the airport where people just out of habit will, for example, hold the handrail on a moving walkway, or you have to press a button to get on an elevator, right? These are touch points that people you routinely use. Well, we found it necessary to disinfect those touch points. And so that is done on a daily basis. In some cases, depending on traffic levels, we may do it more frequently than daily. And then that is reinforced with an electrostatic disinfecting process that we go through on a daily basis as well, with other touch points, door handles, chairs, water fountains, restroom areas. And then the last part of that is a nightly routine that we do. This is the antimicrobial protection that I alluded to earlier, provided by the Top Gun service out of Montgomery County, which is a high-end disinfecting service that has more lasting power, has a longer life than these other measures might have. And so, again, this is our integrated approach to cleaning and disinfecting the terminal. Next slide, please. As again earlier, I talked about our touch points, both in our work areas and those areas where we have high levels of employee or customer activity. We try to touch all of those points as a part of our disinfection efforts. Next slide. Okay. Our concessions program. So food and retail is obviously a service that many of our customers and our employees will rely on as they come through the airport. And when the pandemic hit, as with outside of the airport, we had to take measures to protect the users, both employees and customers of those facilities. So one of the earlier things we did was as a part of our social distancing effort, we reduced the number of seating available in our food court areas, our common food court areas, which was one of the earliest steps, making sure that employees in those operations are all wearing proper PPEs, face masks, that they're engaged in hand washing and using disinfectant. All of those protocols that the public health community has advised us to use outside of the airport. We also want to protect our employees in those areas. And so Fraport, in partnership with its subtenants, the concessionaires, did a lot of work around managing the start times on their work days, and making sure that all the employees had the proper PPEs. And then also making sure that all of the operators were treating customer safety as a priority, protecting inventory, as it came onto the airport and then is delivered to the various locations. And in the event an employee started showing symptoms or actually tested positive, each location followed the county's protocols for reporting that incident and making sure that we participated in any contact tracing that was necessary related to that particular effort. And then making sure that that particular location was properly sanitized and prepared for reopening upon approval by the county. Next slide, please. So the airport is an ecosystem, right? We are a community of employees as well as businesses, service providers. And in order for the airport to work, in order for the airport to meet the needs of our customers, this ecosystem and all the participants have to be healthy. And so we embraced that early on in this pandemic. And so back in March or April, we were one of the first airports to embrace a rather aggressive series of financial relief for our partners. With our airlines, for example, we deferred their rent until the beginning of next year, beginning of January of next year. We could not abate their rent, but we could simply defer their rent to a later date, anticipating traffic would come back by then and they would be in a better position to pay the airport. With respect to our concessionaires, parking, rental cars, our food and retail operators, for example, we were able to actually abate the minimum annual guarantee, or the MAG, for a period of time. That time is January, until January. This just made perfect sense. When you have 97% of your traffic go away, it just doesn't make sense to expect your subtenants or your tenants to pay you the same level of rent that you would expect from them when you're going through record-setting periods. And so that helped a lot. We also took some other measures, next slide, to support them in terms of offering them more flexible operating hours. Fraport was very supportive in terms of working with its subtenants to make sure that we provide whatever relief, both from an operating standpoint and a financial standpoint, to try to keep them going. And for that reason, where we experienced about 80% of our food and retail operators had to close shop during the height of this pandemic, we now have about 53% of our concepts operating. And this is one of the highest percentages of operations for food and retail programs in the industry. And so we think they had a lot to do with our efforts to provide them rent relief. Moving on to airport development, as you know, like most airports, we have a pretty robust capital development program. Obviously, when you lose 97% of your revenues, you have to step back and push the pause button for certain capital development projects that are that may not be as time sensitive or may require some reassessment of the market, including bond markets, for example. But there are two projects that we continue to move on. One is the addition of 5 gates on our Concourse A that was completed back in August. We're now working with the 3 new concessionaires on that extended terminal to open there, and they're doing their build out now. And so we're excited about that opening, but we're excited about this new facility as well. And then Taxiway T. Taxiway T is the route that allows aircraft travel around the terminal. Basically, it's the primary circular roadway or route around the terminal building. And the pavement on that project was in pretty severe shape, and so we had to move on that project for safety purposes. And so these are 2 projects that we were able to continue to move with. Next slide, please. So that's a summary, if you will, of how we traveled through this pandemic from an airport perspective. I guess now I will take questions from the audience, and I'll turn it back over to Adrian and to manage the Q&A.
Hello, Ricky. This is Bill Villanueva.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, I've got a question from Derek McDaniels, Eagle Integrated Solutions. Are you planning to incorporate UV and germicidal lighting to combat COVID-19 similar to Pittsburgh Airport?
So, you know, a lot of these, if you read articles, what you'll find is kind of like us, you know, airports are trying different stuff, right? And, you know, some tests, some pilots, some measures are working very well. Some are working not so well. You know, there are airports that are paying attention, for example, what we're doing with our crowd vision technology. We're paying attention to what other airports are doing in the industry. That is one effort that we're looking at, as well as, you know, using autonomous devices for cleaning, using our robots, for example, to support our customer service efforts. And so, yeah, that's one of many opportunities that we are exploring to see if there's some efficacy there that will cause us to commit to it.
All right, last question. Is the recovery program, or was the recovery program specifically developed for BWI Marshall Airport, and is it unique to the airport? That'll be the last question.
So this roadway to recovery plan was developed by the management team here at BWI Marshall with the support of their respective team members. It is specific to and customized for BWI Marshall Airport and Martin State Airport. And you'll find that other airports kind of took a similar approach. Now, that being the case, we are also very active in trade organizations like Airport Council International and the American Association of Airport Executives, where we work with other airports on best practices. Some of those are reflected in this roadway to recovery plan. There are others that we're, as I alluded to earlier, others that we are exploring and testing to see if we should embrace it as a measure that we want to take on. But this is the roadway to recovery is customized for, prepared by BWI and Martin State Airport employees.
Okay, thank you, Ricky. We're running a little bit tight on time. Adrian?
Okay, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Wayne Frazier has nearly 40 years of experience in business development, finance, banking, and marketing. His leadership in project financing and public-private development contracts has garnered new business and growth for numerous small and minority business contractors in Maryland and throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. He is committed to utilizing small business and minority subcontractors and craftsmen when others may rely on larger single-source contractors. Mr. Frazier is known for his innovative and creative approach to designing and implementing diversity and inclusion policies and procedures. He is the president of the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association, which advocates for minority business inclusion and has a track record of assisting hundreds of minority and women-owned businesses to secure more than $500 million in contract work since 2003. Mr. Frazier holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Morgan State University. We welcome Wayne Frazier to the discussion.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. I am pleased to be here this afternoon to impart some of my knowledge that on things that have occurred during this pandemic. And it's an honor to be asked to address this esteemed group that I cannot see, and discuss some of the areas that I believe are beneficial to the growth of small businesses during this pandemic and beyond. The Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association was formed in 2003 as an advocacy group, initially to bring opportunities to women and minority-owned businesses. We also serve as a public relations arm. We assist with getting companies certified as MBEs, WBEs, SBEs, ACDBEs throughout the state of Maryland, as well as in Baltimore City and in Washington, D.C. with their CDE program, and in Virginia with their SWAM and small business program, as well as Delaware and Pennsylvania. We assist companies in marketing their businesses to those who they want to work with. Our world-class website posts advertising and projects that folk can participate in, primarily in the design, that's architectural and engineer, and construction. We also serve as a connector between you, the small business, and the larger businesses that want to connect with you to perform or to meet the requirements of many of the contracts that come down from government and now from private concerns. We assist in collecting bad debts, accounts receivables. Oftentimes, you get involved in an opportunity where you perform, but payment is slow, or worse, no payment at all. We assist in collecting that without bringing in expensive legal counsel. We have our world-class website, as I mentioned earlier before, and that's just mwmca.org. And weekly, we list projects from around the DMV that are searching for women and minority-owned businesses. And finally, we are proud of our work in the DMV, both in Congress on the national level and on the state level in Annapolis, in advocating for inclusion bills for women and minority business. Perhaps one of our proudest moments occurred when we fought and had the nonprofits in the state of Maryland eliminated from the MBE program. It was ludicrous to have nonprofits certified as MBEs whenever it occurred. But in 2013, we were able to convince the General Assembly in a unanimous role, both in the House and in the Senate, to strike down the nonprofits as MBEs. Thus, it's close to $1 billion that were spent annually. It was like $780 million spent annually with nonprofits that are now being distributed to deserving real MBEs. I'd like to discuss next some of the current conditions that are going on in the DMV that are related to COVID. And like most in America, business has slowed down significantly. And in some cases, it's come to a stop. So since COVID has hit, slowly are some of the projects starting back up and moving forward. There's projects in Baltimore these are, I would say, construction to real estate development projects at the Penn Station in Baltimore. There'll be a total remake of that. And then both in District of Columbia in Baltimore and in the Prince George's and Montgomery County region, there's a continually upgrade of the water and wastewater projects where deserving MBEs could take advantage of that. Also in Baltimore, there's the massive Port Covington project. That's a overall $12 billion 20-year project for remaking of that particular terminal on the Baltimore Harbor. In Columbia, Maryland, there's the Howard Hughes real estate development. That is about a $5 billion. It will be remaking the entire downtown area of Columbia with mixed use projects and even affordable housing. The colleges and universities are continuing to build. In Baltimore, Morgan State University, my alma mater, is constructing or about to construct a twin tower student housing. Those opportunities exist there. And throughout the state of Maryland, the Maryland Stadium Authority is managing the K through 12 construction. So you would want to reach out to the Maryland Stadium Authority for opportunities both in design and in construction. The next area that I would like to discuss would be what you, the MBE, SBE, DBE, ACDBE must do to maintain your competitive edge in these tough conditions. Number one and foremost is that you have to keep those valuable certifications updated. You have to review the work that you've done over the last few years, and if there's a need to expand your certifications, your NAES codes, then you need to take a look at that, and whatever work you have done that you currently don't have a code for, a NAES code for, you need to provide proof to MDOT, the Department of Transportation that provides the certification. You have to provide proof that you have performed that service, and that proof is having a purchase order or a contract with stated objectives that you have completed and then receive payment for. That's considered a complete process, and then one could apply for an expansion of services, and that will open up opportunities for you in other areas to continue to grow your business. We also have groups out there like the WeBank, that is the Women's Business Enterprise Program. You'll have the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development group that can certify your business so that you can take advantage of the private entities that are out here. And as an MBE, you have to constantly hunt for new business. Where's the new business? The first place one can find new business is through eMerlin Marketplace. And then you have major water utilities and electrical utilities such as WSSC and DC Water. You have to register online with them to be able to receive their opportunities. And then in DC, you have the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, which controls Dulles and national airports. You can register online and become certified with that entity as a small minority business to receive opportunities still coming out from them. And we also have the major power utilities such as the Baltimore Gas and Electric, Pepco, Dominion, First Energy, and PECO. You should consider going online and registering with those groups so that you can receive the information that comes down from them. And then naturally, you must stay close to your banker and to your surety bonding company so that when opportunities come, you're prepared to take advantage of it. Now, how can the state of Maryland assist you in this? First of all, the state of Maryland needs to open up its procurement for the PPP supplies to a competitive arrangement. The agencies such as the Maryland Stadium Authority, they must do a better job in opening up opportunities when it comes to design work and then construction, instead of using the same old firms each and every time. The state of Maryland should also place more sub-goals on all of its procurements and ensure prompt pay. In addition, it must open up more design opportunities for MBE firms and create more small business enterprise opportunities throughout the federal transportation projects. Expand the small business reserve, and the state can do a better job in providing virtual inspections and permits electronically. As for the future, expect more virtual opportunities. There will be less need for office space, and all electronic bidding and change orders will be processed, eliminating paper. With that, I'd like to close and move to the next speaker.
Actually, Wayne, thank you very much. This is Bill Villanueva again. We've got a couple of questions. One question is, what must MBEs do to maintain their competitive edge during this pandemic?
Well, again, sharpen your NACE codes so that when opportunities come about, you have the ability to jump on them right away and not lose an opportunity because you have performed something, know you can do it, but when they ask, do you have that particular code, and you don't, you'll be turned down.
Okay. Next question is, Can you tell us about the current conditions within the construction market in the DMV?
The conditions are extremely slow at this point. However, as I said earlier, there are opportunities through K through 12, still at the college and universities, and all sorts of real estate development projects throughout the DMV.
All right, that's about it. That concludes the questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Wayne Frazier. We'll turn it over to you, Adrian.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And thank you, Wayne. We really appreciate you joining us today. I am delighted to introduce our next speaker. Anthony Barnes is the Chief Operating Officer at the Airport Minority Advisory Council, AMAC, which is the only trade association dedicated to increasing diversity in airport contracting and employment. Anthony previously served as AMAC's Business Development and Membership Director, and he brings a wealth of association management and fundraising experience to the organization. Mr. Barnes is a member of the ENO Center of Transportation's Board of Regents, which supports ENO's educational and professional development programs, and he is actively involved in their aviation work group. Anthony has a BA in history from Oakwood University and a master's in public administration from Bowie State University. And now we will hear from Mr. Anthony Barnes.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Bill and Ricky and the rest of the BWI team for inviting me to today's event, where I will talk a little bit about our organization, who we are, AMAC, what we've been doing for the industry and for our members during these unprecedented times, and then also how you can be involved with the organization. As AMAC, we are the only national nonprofit trade association dedicated to advancing the full participation of minorities and women in employment and contracting opportunities throughout this industry. We also have a foundation that works with us to develop programs and scholarships for students to increase diversity within the industry, and we have a political action committee that supports candidates or initiatives that are consistent with AMAC's goals. So all three organizations work together in order to advance and really promote diversity within our industry. Next slide. Our core national office is located in DC. And on the next slide, you'll see just members of our core team, myself serving as a Chief Operating Officer, and then we have others, Shermana Roundtree, our Corporate Development Director, Javon Goldstein, our CFO, Mariko Edwards, with South River Law serving as our General Counsel, and Terry Frierson serving as our Foundation Program Manager. We're also governed by a national board made up of industry leaders from around the country, and you'll see that on the next few slides. And as we noted earlier, we have our board chairman, Mr. Ricky Smith, who was recently elected earlier this year, serving in that capacity. Our board is comprised of members and industry leaders from around the country, that represent various areas within our industry. Our membership and our board, first our board is divided up into our executive committee, also our regional directors and our at-large members. And then our membership is divided into regions, with our regional directors serving as an extension of AMAC and leading those regions as being a local resource for our members within that region. And on the next few slides, you'll see members of both the regional directors and our at-large members. Next slide. And as I was stating, AMAC is a membership organization, and we have several benefits for members to advance their business goals and professional growth. On the next two slides, we highlight some of the benefits of an AMAC membership, from strategic networking opportunities and targeted educational content to business matchmaking opportunities and access to decision makers. We focus on preparing and promoting our members to advance and really excel within this industry. So we have various opportunities where you can engage and see other opportunities, not just at our local airports here in this area, but also nationally as well. We do have a national bid board that we promote to our membership as well. Next slide. You can go ahead to the next slide as well. We host several events throughout the year to create a platform of engagement between aviation, airport, and transportation executives, professional service and industry consultants, engineers, marketing and business professionals, concession operators, project managers. Essentially, all members of the airport ecosystem make up our membership. We can go to the next slide. And this is just an example of just some of our national and local annual events that we hold. One of our most important annual events is our Leadership Summit on Capitol Hill. And this is where we bring our members to DC in order to help us advocate for the preservation of the federal DBE and ACDBE programs. We have been at the forefront of nearly every policy decision affecting the DBE program since its inception. And so we want to focus on not just preserving the program, but also expanding the program as well. Next slide. In addition to our continuous legislative efforts for the overall program, this year we adjusted our immediate legislative priorities and our organizational priorities to address the pandemic that's impacted our industry and the world around us. As an organization, we essentially established a resource center for our members to receive direct technical assistance when searching for and applying for PPP funding. And if we can go to that next slide. We helped our members not only search for what funding is available, but also helping them navigate that whole process. We also highlighted the tremendous impact that COVID-19 has played on our industry due to a significant drop in traveling passengers. And then we use that information to advance our lobbying efforts in order to really secure financial relief for our airports and our members, concessionaires, and our other members. And we haven't received that funding just yet, but we've been working on that since this pandemic. And then we also took financial steps to ensure that this 36-year-old organization may continue advancing. We took financial steps to make sure this organization may continue advancing minorities and women in this industry, even during these times. We've made tremendous progress so far, and that we were successful in highlighting that there is a need for direct federal relief for our members and those we represent. This was evidenced very recently when the U.S. House leadership introduced a new COVID-19 bill about a week or two ago. And this bill contains a rent and minimum annual guarantee abatement relief in the amount of approximately $3 billion for our airport concessionaires, including ACDBEs. We know that the administration ceased talks for now, but we are hopeful and we are still lobbying for the passage of this bill. We're really proud of the work that our airports and, for example, BWI Marshall has provided relief for many of our concessionaires and our other members who have been impacted by the COVID-19. And we just want to make sure that we are continuing to find and explore all areas for relief for some of our most impacted members. Next slide. As we go through the next few slides, you will see our PAC board leadership. The PAC continues to support candidates and initiatives that support our organizational goals, especially during this time. And then you'll also notice our foundation leadership, and an example of our foundation leadership. Again, members from across the country and cross-reference of the industry. And then on the next slide, you'll see just an example of some of the programming that they continue to do to help support our students pursuing careers in the aviation industry. As I come to a close, I want to highlight some of the many ways that you can get connected with AMAC from social media, to our email. We are on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, so please be sure to follow us and connect with us that way and engage with us. Also, feel free to email us, and you can see our ways to get connected with us on our next slide, but feel free to email us, attend an event. There are several ways to get connected with us. And on that previous slide, I'm sorry, I went too fast, but just wanted to highlight some of our corporate and industry partners that we work with, that you'll see us working with, that we who share similar goals. And these relationships help us continue to do the important work that we're doing with advancing minorities and women within our industry. Again, please get connected with us via social media and our website. We have various ways that you can do that, but we want to continue pushing for relief for our concessionaires and continue our legislative effort to not only preserve our DVE program, but expand the program as well to really eliminate the barriers that impact so many minorities and women within this industry. Bill, do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, Anthony. Yes, we do. One comes from Angina. What's the best way to reach out for AMAC membership?
Yeah, please, you can email us or visit our website. Our website is www.amac-org.com. That again, www.amac-org.com. Or you can send me an email or us an email. I don't think we have our email on there, but my email, abarnes@amac-org.com, so that we can connect with you, and that way we can talk to you about what it is to become a member of AMAC. We also hold AMAC orientation events as well, that we run down what it means to be an AMAC member. We run down how to be involved with the organization as well. And if you visit our website, you can sign up for any of the upcoming orientation sessions.
Yes, also, thank you, Anthony. Next question is, how does AMAC assist non-concessionaire companies like a construction company or engineering firm?
Yeah, good question. So we represent the entire airport ecosystem. Our members are made up of not just concessionaires and airports, but also construction firms and primes and engineering firms and architecture firms, and those that are working within the aviation, within the airport space, or wishing to engage within the airport space. We work with those members. We're actually have plans to launch a full program for our architecture, engineering, and construction firms to help you get connected with more opportunities, mentor you, connect you with other mentorship opportunities, and then also to grow your business as well. We have plans to launch that program over the next few months, so please be sure to connect with us on our website and sign up for our news so that you will hear the announcement when that announcement goes out.
And one last final question. Do you need to be an AMAC member to attend AMAC events?
No, you don't need to be an AMAC member to attend AMAC events. We strongly encourage you to become a member. That just opens the doors to so many opportunities, but you don't need to be a member to attend any of the events. Again, you could visit us on our website and sign up for our news, and you'll receive information on when we actually have events. You'll receive those announcements as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Anthony, Mr. Barnes. I'm turning it over to Adrienne Trout.
Okay, great. I am honored to introduce our next speaker. Since 2015, Sharon Pinder has served as the president and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council. CRMSDC is the global leader in advancing business opportunities for its certified Asian, Black, Hispanic, and Native American business enterprises and connecting them to member corporations. For the last 2 years, the Washington Business Journal named CRMSDC as one of the top 25 business advocacy groups in the greater Washington, D.C. region. Ms. Pinder began her career as a software engineer working for Fortune 500 companies, including USF&G, which is now Travelers, Equitable Trust Bank, which is now Bank of America, and General Electric, where she had an instrumental role in leading GE onto the internet. She is best known as Maryland's first appointed cabinet secretary of the Governor's Office of Minority Affairs and as the architect of Maryland's minority and small business reform movement. During her first 3 years in this position, payments to minority and women-owned businesses increased by $1 billion. She also created the Small Business Reserve Program, which was the first state level set aside for small businesses in the country. She has also served as a cabinet member for Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake as the director of the Mayor's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Business Development for the City of Baltimore. And in addition to her appointed positions, she has been an entrepreneur as the CEO of the Pinder Group and founded the Center for Business Inclusion and Diversity and created the Top 100 MBE Awards program. In its 13th year, it is the Mid-Atlantic region's premier recognition ceremony for minority businesses. Sharon has received many national and local awards, including twice being named Diversity Plus magazine's Top 25 Women in Diversity in 2016 and 2020. In 2014, the Baltimore Sun named her as one of 50 women to watch, and the same year, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore created the Sharon R. Pinder Entrepreneur Scholarship in her honor. She is a graduate of Leadership Maryland, Leadership Greater Washington, and the Greater Baltimore Leadership Programs. Ms. Pinder has an MS in Technology Management from the University of Maryland University College, where she serves as a professor of practice in the School of Graduate Studies, and she is the recipient of their 2004 Alumni of the Year Award. And now I present Ms. Sharon Pinder.
Good afternoon, and thank you so very, very much. And I completely am honored to be a part of this conversation this afternoon, an important conversation. And so thank you, Ricky Smith, CEO, and others, Bill, that are instrumental in pulling this all together today. In the time that I have with you, what I want to be able to do is tell you about the organization and then talk a little bit about the impact and essential kinds of things that we've uncovered along the way about the impact to COVID to our businesses. And so our organization is a national organization in scope, but our mission is to be that conduit between the private sector, the corporate 500 types, and our minority businesses. And so we connect our certified minority businesses to those corporations to be a part of their supply chain. If I can have the next slide, please. I'm one of 23 affiliates across the country, and my immediate territory is the state of Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Northern Virginia down to Fredericksburg. But again, I have 22 other colleagues across the country, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Nationally, we're headquartered in New York, and we have about now 13,000 certified MBEs across the country. Our certification was created on the heels, or the organization rather was created on the heels of the civil unrest in the late 60s, and its purpose was to hold the private sector accountable for its minority business spend. The government has its regulations and public policy, but these corporations got together about 48 years ago and said that they would then hold themselves accountable in terms of their spend. And so that was kind of like why they are put together, or together today rather. There are about 60 corporations locally, and our business model is that we look in terms of our territory, those corporations that are headquartered here, although we service any corporation that's a part of the membership mix. There are about several hundred corporations that belong, or that are members of the National Minority Supply Development Council. About 1,500 right now. Next slide, please. This is just to give you a snapshot of some of the corporations that are headquartered here, that's a part of our corporate members. And as we have this conversation today, and we think about COVID, you know, in a muted recovery, such as what we're experiencing, they're talking about that it will take allegedly about 5 years for some of these corporations that have been affected to get back to their 2019 levels. So why is that important? Because when America catches a cold, minority businesses catch pneumonia, or even worse. And in terms, when we look at what happened with COVID, a lot of our businesses weren't doing well prior to COVID. And so we look across the country and we look at those corporations that are impacted by COVID. We look at them in terms of being somewhat an indicator of what's to come. Could I have the next slide, please? This is also, again, just to give you a snapshot of some of our local corporate members. But if you want a full list of where we are nationally, our national website is nmsdc.org. That can give you a list of all corporations that belong to the council on a national level. But this gives you kind of a snapshot of who we service here locally. But the reason I wanted to kind of share this particular slide, because again, COVID, there are 20.5 million people who lost their jobs in April. And so if you look at the industries that are impacted, the hotel industry or hospitality, the construction industry, the retail industries, the restaurant industries, those industries gravely impacted by COVID. And the trickle down effect, of course, would be the impact it's going to have to small women and minority businesses. Could I have the next slide? Again, in my quest to kind of share with you who we are and what we're about, we look at our certified minority businesses in what we call classes. Class 1 are those of less than $1 million. Class 2 of revenue is from 1 to 10 million. Class 3 revenues 10 to 50 million. And our class 4 minority businesses are 50 million and above. And the reason this becomes an important part of the conversation when I talk about the organization, because I've been doing this for the last 15 years or so, and people have this notion about minority businesses. They think sometimes mom and pop, but there is a level of sophistication that has occurred, particularly with our entrepreneurs. And so when I tell people of our certified, and this is just the ones we certify in my particular region, 63% of them are MBEs of annual revenues of $1 million or more. And in terms of our industries, we run the gamut of industries as well. So just to give you perspective about the types of businesses that we're talking about that we certify for our organization. Next slide. When I started 5 years ago, one of the things that we did do was to go after some grants from the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. Now, MBDA is the only federal agency in the whole gamut of federal agencies in the federal government system, and it's one of the least funded. But nevertheless, we did get 2 grants from MBDA to operate our MBDA Business Center. We have the MBDA Business Center, Washington, D.C., and we also have the MBDA Federal Procurement Center, which is the only one of its kind in this country. In our portfolio, the last slide I just showed you, whereas we look at or service as our members Fortune 500, 100 types of corporations, integrated in our portfolio are also state, local, and federal government. We sit at the biggest seat of government in the country, and that is why we have federal agencies, state and local jurisdiction that are part of our portfolio as well. And so when we created, or when we went after those grants, we created this consortium, which is an extension of our services. Specifically our business centers, federal procurement centers, are made up of business consultants. And so we become your marketing and business development arm in terms of you navigating the federal government of how to do business, and you're navigating getting business from our private sector as well as local state governments as well. And so just to give you a snapshot of what that looks like, our next slide will show you across when I talked about we're one of 23 across the country, this is kind of where we're located and across the country. And the so what big deal in terms of our certification, it is a national certification. And quite often our businesses are looking to do business in other parts of the country. And so your certification provides as that license to hunt for business in other parts of the country as well. The other map, which is the next slide I'll show you, is what we look like from an MBDA center. So I just showed you was one of 23 affiliates. When we became a part of the MBDA center or family of centers, we're one of about 37 centers across the country. And so when companies are coming to us looking for MBEs, there is not a notion that it cannot be found, because we can layer on top of that, not only in our regions, but across the country through our MBDA centers as well. And so we tell our corporate members that we can put our fingers on those qualified MBEs that are ready to do business. So just, again, trying to give you perspective. When we look at the benefits of our organization, our next slide will show some of the things that we do. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3. How we are, our business model is that we're all, the 23 affiliates I told you from across the country, we are all individual 501c3s. So we all have our own board of directors who we answer to, etc. But in terms of us providing the resources to our minority businesses in order to help them build capacity, we do this in a variety of fashions. We do it through networking events, we do it through matchmaking events, we do it through opportunity events kind of things, and we do it through training and programs. An example of how we try to do stuff in kind of an innovative way is something that we created a couple of years ago in partnership with Southwest Airlines. I'll share that with you again. We called it our Get on the Plane business tour. It was an offshoot of our Get on the Bus business tour. One day, true story, I was driving through our region going to a meeting in Virginia. And as I was going through Fairfax County, could see some of our corporate members. It was the Hilton, it was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, it was BAE Systems, it was SAIC. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to get on the bus to take our MBs to see this business? And that's how we literally came up with Get on the Bus. The next year, we said, you know, given our footprint across the country, wouldn't it be great to get on the plane? So we partnered with Southwest Airlines and we flew our minority businesses to another market. The first market was Nashville, where they were undergoing a $1.2 billion renovation for Nashville International Airport. And we took, they didn't have A&E, so we took minority businesses there. And we have done that to the state of Florida, where Broward County was doing public school construction. We flew some businesses there. So we look at ways by which we can be productive and creative by to be in that conduit, as I talked about, between minority businesses and our corporate members. The next slide would just also give you, it was mentioned in my introduction that we do the top 100, the only one of its kind, and we do that on an annual basis, except for this year, because this year we put some things on hold because of course, the pandemic. And so what I'd like to talk to you in terms of the next slide are some of the things that we've had to do in terms of pivoting. It's an overused word, but the truth of the matter is, when there has never been a pandemic of this kind that's ever hit before. And by that, I mean that when there's been disasters or emergencies across the country, it's usually contained or very specific. It's never been something that has been as widespread as this. And then on top of that, when we look at impact to minority businesses, layered on top of that is the social injustice piece as well. And so when you look at the pandemic from an economic impact perspective, we also, what raises its ugly head is the impact that racism or systemic racism has had on minority businesses. So you take all of that into consideration as you're looking at that. And so what we did in March, closed our offices. We have an office in Montgomery County. We also have an office in Virginia. We closed our offices, and we, like many of you, are teleworking. And I don't know about you, but there's two things that happen when you telework. One is that it seems like you work harder than you've ever worked before. And the second thing I've experienced is COVID weight gain. And so if somebody had a solution for that, please let me know. When we look at how we are assisting our MBEs, there are three areas that we kind of focus on, and that's capital and opportunities. Because at the end of the day, we exist to identify where the opportunities are and the access to capital. And so when we look at where is the money, we instantly went into mode of how do we identify those funding resources or the financial resources? How do we identify where the contracts are and the impact to those industries? So we created this thing called Hot Sheet Live and newsletter. And in that newsletter, we tried to get through, and in our Hot Sheet Live webinars, and we're up to number 11, we tried to cut through all the noise and get information that was fundamental to the sustainability rather, of our minority businesses. And so we did that Where is the Money series that continues to go on. We looked at where the impact to our industries. We looked at not only we saw people grappling with the payroll protection program and idle loans and that kind of thing, but we also looked at opportunities and financing that was available here on the local level. I know that Stan Tucker is going to talk about what was just done in terms of the COVID funds, and the federal government has provided us CARES Act funding as well to look at how do we do that. When the pandemic hit and people wanted to know how to do business with the federal government, one of the things that we immediately did was to spread the information of how was that accomplished? How was that accomplished through SAMS, which is a registration system? And in addition to that, you had to also know that there's a disaster element within SAMS that you have to make sure that you're a part of as well. And that when you looked at how does that filter down once the president declares an emergency, doing work with the local FEMAs. And so we were dealing with the Maryland FEMA, the Virginia FEMA, the FEMA, it's called EDA in Washington, D.C., and looking at where those opportunities are with the Corps of Engineers and those kinds of things. We were looking at, again, the impact to the industry. We had chief procurement officers from Under Armour and from the Montgomery County government, and Jonathan Butler for Prince George's County, and we've had the Red Cross and ARP, some of our corporate members, to look at where are they spending money, because everybody, of course, had the PPE rush, but where they're spending money, because quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, what we have to brace ourselves for is what's going to happen in 2021. So I thought the advice that was given earlier by the gentleman was spot on, because as our corporations are preparing for 2021, our submission of budget items is happening now in October. Particularly for nonprofits, we have to look at where those resources coming from, how are those contracts going to be impacted as such. We, at the national level, in terms of the social injustice piece, we had we are in it together campaign where corporations are looking at how we begin to fund, because particularly Black-owned businesses, because Black-owned businesses, depends on where you read it, you're talking about 50% of them may not return. And so how do we begin to help them with sustainability and survivability? One of the things that we will be implementing at the end of the year is something that we're calling the ultimate MBE makeover, where we're taking a triage approach. We're gathering those resources, whether it's the legal resources, the bonding resources, it's the financial resources, it's the marketing resources, and we're going into those businesses that may be on a lifeline, that need some help, and we're taking those resources and to make over those businesses. One of the things that we're implementing this year, we started implementing, is our Lift as We Climb, our mentor protege program. But the thing that's really key for us for this particular program, because I have found that there is power when minority businesses link up with minority businesses. And so we're asking our class 3s and 4s to mentor our class 1s and 2s. And particularly now, because I've seen some of our class 4s that are over $50 million get hit hard because they're part of the hospitality industry, because they're part of industries that were impacted. And so there are lessons learned, there are things that can be shared that we're kind of looking at. And then there's advocacy. We're looking at what's the impact going to be in the stimulus packages. We have to be where our legislators are to have them understand the impact. Our MBDA budget has been on the chopping block for the last couple of years. We spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill making sure that they don't cut us out of the budget. And so those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do in order to kind of help. We have a CEO Leadership Academy where we take, for our cohorts, we take a deep dive into your leadership abilities, your impact to your workforce, financial management, talent management, and all of those things that help businesses work on their businesses and not necessarily end. The next slide. That's an example, and I told you our Hot Sheet Live up to number 10 webinar. We have one coming up next week where we're looking at how do you return to work and what's the impact on that. We're looking at, we just did one, which was very interesting, where we looked at industries like the travel industry. We had Ricky Smith talk about some of the things he talked about today. We had the Hilton talk about with all the things and the furloughs and terminations they've had to do, where's the hotel industry going? We had the gaming industry. We had the GM of Horseshoe Casino. And one of the most interesting things he talked about is when they locked down Las Vegas, they couldn't find the keys to the casino because it had never been closed before. And all three of those operations, the airport, the hotels, and the casinos, all 24/7 operations, things that have been impacted. And so those are the kind of things we're looking at. The next two slides are just examples of things that we've done. I talked about Academy. The next one is our Get on the Plane example. But I also want to talk about what people have done to kind of pivot. The next slide talks about who we are in case you want to get in touch with us. But some examples of things that people have pivoted. There is one, I'm sure they don't mind me sharing, about the McFarland's 21st Century. They were one of the largest minority-owned events organizations. They had a 30,000 square foot warehouse. They have turned that warehouse into a wellness kind of athletic center. I mean, incredible what they've done. And they're booked through November at this particular point. Talk about pivoting. We had a sign company that has now, they've gone from doing signs to looking at selling. They are selling PPE equipment and sanitizing equipment and things of that sort. We've had a marketing company just change their capability statement to look at helping companies during this COVID. We had a logistics company that has incorporated in terms of what they're doing, and with the installation of sanitizing equipment in front of locations. We've had, things like the Marriott, when they are now doing hotel rooms with folks that are need into isolation. So that there's a lot that's going on. This is who we are. You can get in touch with us. I think the next slide shows just some websites that you can get in touch with us. You can call us at 301-593-5860, 301-593-5860. So, Bill, at this point in time, I can take some questions if we have any.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aaron. Yes, what revenue threshold do you have to meet in order to get your national MBE certification?
There is no qualifying threshold in order to be certified for us. For our MBDA centers, we will, our target just for our MBDA centers is $1 million or more, but we do not turn people away in terms of if you're seeking help. And so for the council, there is no threshold. The only thing I ask is that to make sure that your target market are corporations that we service. And so if you're selling something that they aren't buying, don't spend your money getting certified. But if indeed, because we're that fertile ground, we're that nurturing fertile ground that helps to put you in front of those corporations.
Okay, over the last 6 months, which industries were hit the hardest and what's been the impact?
As I shared with you before, hospitality hit, construction hit. There's actually not been too many industries that has been COVID resistant. You know what I mean? And so most of those industries have been impacted. And what I advise people to look at, and that's why we've had our corporations do these webinars as to, okay, so you're cutting down on some contracts, what is it you're buying? And so most of them are still, when we were talking to them, a lot of PPE stuff, but a lot of them are beginning to honor some of the contracts or looking at extending their businesses as well.
Last question is, with so many certification programs, what makes yours better?
Well, I say with prejudice, of course, and I've been certified at all levels. There is a distinction between certifications. You know, if you're 8A, for example, that's federal. If indeed you are MDOT or VDOT, those are statewide certifications. Our certification, when they created it again 48 years ago, it's for the private sector, that list of corporations. But as I shared, we also, we have reciprocal certifications with Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Howard County. And so what makes us different, it is, number one, it is a national certification. You're certified by us. You're an MBE certified to do business across the country. It's national. The second thing is our target audience is the private sector.
All right. With that said, thank you very much, Sharon, for being here this afternoon. Let me turn it over to Miss Adrienne Trout. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you so much, Sharon. We appreciate your insight. I want to remind all of our participants that any questions not covered during the program today will be answered in a follow-up email. And because we're being mindful of your time and our ending time of 3 p.m., we're not going to take any questions until the very end. If we have time after our next two speakers, we will take questions then, but keep the questions coming because they will be answered in a follow-up email that will come to you in the next day or two. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Stanley Tucker. Mr. Tucker has more than 30 years of diversified business experience with a strong emphasis on lending, venture capital, investing, and the development of socially or economically disadvantaged small businesses. He is the president, CEO, and co-founder of the Meridian Management Group, MMG. MMG managed programs have provided more than $230 million in financing to small, minority, and women-owned businesses in Maryland. Prior to forming MMG, which has managed the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority since 1995, Mr. Tucker served as its executive director for nearly 15 years. Stanley received his bachelor's degree from Morgan State University and a graduate degree from Carnegie Mellon University. He is a nationally sought-after speaker and consultant on minority business development. And now we'll hear from Stanley Tucker.
Hello. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with the group in terms of the financing that we have. On the front page there is, we're going to talk today about the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority and the Maryland Casino Business Investment Fund. And our objective is to fulfill the financing and bonding needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the state of Maryland. Next slide, please. Meridian Management Group, we'll be talking about these two funds that we've been managing for about the last 20 plus years, and we will share with you how we strategically design these funds so that they can supplement and complement each other. Next page, please. Meridian Management was formed in 1995 as a private for-profit development management firm. Our expertise is in investing in small, minority, and women-owned businesses. Our management team is very experienced. Collectively, we have more than 200 years of combined experience. We've been working together a long time, the partners. We have a proven track record of success, and we are absolutely committed to underserved markets. Ms. Smith has been managed by MMG since 1982. We were first state employees, but then we privatized, if you will, and stepped out and formed Meridian Management Group in 1995. In 2013, we executed a contract also with the state of Maryland managing the Maryland Casino Business Investment Fund, and I'll share more about that in a few minutes. Next page, please. The Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority, we were created in 1978 primarily to promote the viability and expansion of businesses owned by socially or economically disadvantaged entrepreneurs. We have 4 complementary programs, and you should know we designed these various components so that they could supplement and complement each other. So, for example, if someone walks into our door, depending on where they are in the life cycle of their business, it depends on which one of these funds or several of the funds we will utilize to help with that business. For example, we are in a government contract, heavy government contract financing market. We started out with that. We could finance government and public utility contracts, so we could help someone with working capital. I'll go into that a little bit more. But also, the company may need some working capital as well, or some surety bonding. So we can combine these components wherever they can be utilized to help with the financing needs of the various businesses. We can provide guarantees to traditional financial institutions. We have surety bonding, who I spoke of, and we also have a component that's kind of a catch-all, the Equity Participation Investment Program, which we started in 1986, and it provides debt and equity type of investments, and also, which is very strategic, we can provide what we call patient capital, and I'll go in a little bit more on that. In 2012, we established Invest Maryland, which is really a component of Ms. Spitfer, and then COVID-19 was a very, very interesting piece we just completed. We received $5 million from the CARES program with flexible loans and assist small businesses, particularly that was impacted by COVID-19. And that fund is fully committed. And when we get to that, there's a really serious message as a result of the COVID-19 fund. Next page, please. In 2008, the Maryland General Assembly passed a bill dealing with video lottery terminals when gaming was coming into the state of Maryland. We worked with the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus, where we were able to get language in that legislation where 1.5% of the slot proceeds generated from gaming revenue will be used to fund small minority and women-owned businesses in the state of Maryland. And it should be noted that this strategy is the only one of its kind in the country. So we lead the nation in terms of this strategy. There are a number of other areas that we are a national model based on our strategy that we put together over the years. There are currently 6 funders, if you will, around the state. Baltimore City has a fund. Cecil County has a fund. Allegheny County has a fund. Anne Arundel County has a fund. Worcester County has a fund. And Prince George's County has a fund as well. There are about 8 of us currently. They're looking to expand that. And the fund managers from these various communities, we work very, very closely together in terms of, and sometimes we even provide financing together with particular companies. So we also do a lot of lobbying, if you will, to protect these funds because at one point quite a bit of money was taken out of the funds toward education. So we had to put together a strategy toward that. Next slide. The Maryland Casino Business Investment Fund is really, I kind of gave you a little bit of background. It's designed to get access to small minority and women-owned businesses. It provides affordable and a flexible financing to assist in the acquisition of businesses, purchase of equipment, owner-occupied commercial and real estate vehicles, furniture and fixtures, leasehold improvements, and the provision of working capital. So it's pretty flexible, the kind of financing we can provide. Next page is really what we call our continuum of financing strategy, which I shared with you earlier, depending on where a company is in the life cycle of its business when they walk into our door, depending on which window or windows that we will take you to, excuse me. As you can see, we have the debt components. That's the Ms. Spitfer contract financing component, the Ms. Spitfer long-term guarantee component, Ms. Spitfer equity participation investment component, and the Maryland Casino Business Investment Fund. Surety bonding, we can provide surety bonding. We're one of the few states in the nation that can provide bid, payment, and performance bonds directly ourselves. Very, very unique in that area. And our various equity component, We have the MSBIPA equity participation investment component. It's actually the most flexible component that we have. We could do debt, we could do equity, we could provide guarantees as well. And we also had two other funds that we manage. They're fully invested: Community Development Ventures, Inc. and MMG Ventures. Next page, please. Through these various programs of the SPITFA as well as Maryland Casino Business Investment Fund, we can provide lines of credit, including mobilization funding. That's very, very important when we contractors that come to us, whether they have a private or government contract, they need working capital. And so we can provide the upfront working capital. In fact, what we can do is an entrepreneur can come to us and ask for a line of credit, and we can approve that line of credit. However, they can't access it until they receive the contract itself. So it's kind of a unique strategy that we have there, what we call including the mobilization funding. We can provide term loans, letters of credits, bid payment performance bonds, equity investments, as well as subordinated debt with equity features. So again, we are very flexible in the kind of financing that we provide. The permissible uses, again, working capital, machinery and equipment, purchase of real estate, leasehold improvement, business acquisitions, refinancing of existing debts. And so what makes us unique is with these various components, we can work them in conjunction with each other. And we specifically designed them that way. And one of our core strategies is that we look at a company and we don't use a cookie cutter strategy, because usually every situation is different. And so we'll look at the different situations and we provide the tenor of the financing. And what that means is depending on that particular situation is how we structure the financing that's really needed and fits the situation that company needs, which is somewhat different, but we have the flexibility to do that, and it works very, very well. Last piece that is not on here that I want to talk about is a COVID-19 fund as well that we received from the federal government, and this really tells the story. The state received $50 million from the CARES program from the federal government. Of that $50 million, we received $5 million of those funds. And we were given a mandate to put those monies to work by the end of the year. Well, what happened, we received $5 million. However, within 2 months, we were able to deploy that capital, and we received actually $20+ million in requests. And so folks say, Stanley, you're always talking about access to capital for minority business. And we say, yes, capitalism without capital doesn't work, okay? And so this particular experience really is a telling story about the tremendous demand that's out there for small minority and women-owned businesses. So that's just with us, and we had to cut it off. We used the money, but we got over $20 million in requests. And so, you know, this really justifies and really tells the story, because there are a number of studies which talk about the lack of access to capital for minority businesses. Well, this particular experience speaks volumes about the lack of access to capital for small minority and women-owned businesses and the tremendous demand that is out there. So I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Stanley, I want to thank you. I have only one question. If you could quickly answer this, and as quickly as possible in a short time, how long does your process take?
Well, that's a qualifier. And let me say it this way. If we get a package with good information, Bill, we could get it done really within 60 days or less than 60 days, actually. We had good quality information, okay? A lot of the time, we don't get good quality information. So I tell the entrepreneurs that's listening to please provide good quality information, because it allows us to do our analysis and get back to you with an answer much faster, versus we have to come back to you and request information from you. So I would say, Bill, ordinarily we have good quality information. We could really get this deal done and get money in your hands, in 30, 35 days, and depending in some situations even less.
So good quality information gets you funded. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. Adrian, you can take it from here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. Our next guest is Maria Pilar Rodriguez, a native of the Dominican Republic. She is a seasoned paralegal and administrative professional with nearly 25 years of experience in personal injury, civil litigation, workers' compensation, and immigration law. She is the founder of MPR Business Solutions, an interpreting, translation, and legal services company that has served a client base that includes government institutions, multiple Maryland court systems, and the private sector for more than a decade. Maria is also the executive director of the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is the premier statewide institution for the representation and advancement of business interests before the public and private sectors. The Chamber provides the Hispanic community and the business community with strength and cohesion, providing its members with 3 Ps to propel business to success: promotion, partnerships, and procurement advice. Ms. Rodriguez is dedicated to advancing opportunities for women in business, Hispanic small businesses, the Hispanic community, and charitable organizations. Her community involvement includes the William and Lanai C. Featherstone Foundation, the Alzheimer's Association, Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, the Dominican Association, and the Federation of Hispanic Organizations. In 2012, the Daily Record named Ms. Rodriguez one of Maryland's top 100 women. Ms. Rodriguez received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from John Jay College and has additional certifications from the Paralegal Institute in New York City. Now we'll hear from Maria P. Rodriguez. Maria, you can take it away from here. You might have your mute button on, Maria.
Maria, you may want to take your mute button off.
I'm going to ask our production team if you can give Maria a call.
That's what I'm going to do.
Thank
That's what I'm
you.
doing right now.
Thank you. And because we are getting close to the end, I'm going to do our closing remarks before Maria speaks. I want to remind everybody that we're going to be sending a follow-up email that will include today's PowerPoint slides, the recording of this event, and any questions we were not able to cover during the program today. Keeping our stakeholders informed is very important to us, and we will get that information to you. Look for that email to come in the next day or two. I also want to remind you that BWI Marshall is active on social media, and we invite you to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There is an upcoming contractor town hall virtual event, and if you are interested in participating in that town hall, please send us an email at maatownhall@bwiairport.com. I want to check and see if we're going to be having Maria come on, Bill.
Yes, technical difficulty, but she's, we're looking at connecting her right now.
Great, great.
Please stand by.
Appreciate that, and want to just thank everybody on our production team today that are behind the scenes. That includes Alice Cook, Rachel Goodman, Stacy Gordon, and Nicholas Lloyd. And thanks everybody for hanging in there. And I want to thank our program participants, Ricky Smith, Wayne Frazier, Anthony Barnes, Sharon Pinder, Stanley Tucker, and looking forward to hearing from Maria. This has been a great panel. You all have really contributed valuable information to our participants.
Again, Adrian, I want to thank you for taking the time and putting together such a great script. Everyone, thank you so much for helping put this production together. Hold on, I think this is her getting on now.
Maria, I'm not sure if you heard, but I gave everyone your background, and we're very excited to hear from you. So you can take the floor. Maria, I want to make sure you turn off your mute button so we can hear you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience while we work through this technical difficulty.
Me now.
Hi, Maria. We can hear you. Welcome.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Buenas tardes, everyone.
I know you couldn't hear me, but I gave you a great introduction. And in the essence
yes,
of
I heard it.
oh, good, good. Then you can take the floor, Maria.
Great. Thank you. Buenas tardes, everyone. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month is the end. I'll be very brief on my presentation. You can go to the next slide. You've already heard my introduction and my business. Today I'm here to talk to you about the Chamber of Commerce and the Maryland Hispanic Business Conference, and just the importance of what that has made in my career and as a small business owner, the importance of Hispanic or any chambers that are there, giving you that vision, that mission, and the purpose that they serve to connect you with so many different networkings or government agencies and opportunities. If you go to the next slide, we have the Maryland Hispanic Chamber has also expanded into the different areas. So We are in 5 regions right now, and we're trying to expand our database, our small businesses, to be there to give you that support and that information and represent you in legislative law. If you go to the next slide, visiting the Chamber's website, you will see all the different benefits of becoming a member of the Chamber. We have monthly webinar presentations, since everything has changed as to our person-to-person networking. We have now taken it online. You can visit our website and see we have a great program coming up on Thursday, the 22nd, with Eduardo Hayden, bringing you that information. Tomorrow is our golf event. There's still time to register. We're having a benefit we have a scholarship fund that has been created for Latino students. You can go to the next slide, please. And we also have a BAM, is an advocacy kind of group for business leaders. So as a business owner, to be able to get ideas, why reinvent what's already been invented? Come and join the seasoned business owners that can give you insights and information as to how to grow your business, where to take care of certain things that are going wrong. I mean, there are people out there, just like the SBA, just like Mr. Stanley Custer group. They're there to help you. So being small business owners, you're reaching out to these chambers to give you that information. Just yesterday, we did a program with 7 chambers within the area, covering Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So the information is there. If you go to the next slide, that's our BAM program. Again, it's a round table for the business owners to gain information and insight on growing their business. And the next slide is going to show you one of our coming up webinars. We're doing monthly webinars. That information is on our website. You can go online and get the information. Eduardo has a great presentation coming up for us on the 22nd, and it's about state procurement. And he has all the information. We're going to give a seminar in Spanish and English. So we're covering everyone that can participate and come and see this webinar. Everything is on our website at the mdhcc.com. And if you go to the next slide, we partner with different organizations such as the BWI Airport that we're here today, putting together and bringing you such great information for small business owners or business owners that just want to learn more about what opportunity and what's out there for them. As I said, we've had to change everything because of the COVID and, going virtual. Now the information comes to you right through these great presentations. I want to thank BWI for inviting me here today to present this to you. They have a program that's also coming up. Visit our website to get and sign up. You don't have to drive very far. 2 seconds from your bed and you're right in front of BAM, your virtual introduction. And the next slide, please. And you see Bill's picture right there, my good friend Bill. Thank you for the opportunity to present what the Maryland Hispanic Chamber is doing in our community. And the next slide talks about our foundation. As I said, we have a foundation, we have a golf event that's coming up, and that's tomorrow. You can get more information on the website. And lastly, is my business cards to the services that were beautifully presented at the beginning. The next slide shows our involvement in the community with the Hispanic Business Conference. We've created a virtual event as well that's coming up, and just reach out for information. This is something that we are here to serve the community. We are here to help you find what is the next step and how to grow your business. And if you go to the next slide, that's my short version of the end of my presentation. I just want to say today is appropriate. It's October 15th. Hispanic Heritage Month ends today. And also a reminder, everyone, please go out and vote. We need your vote. We need to make a presence. And the Latino community is thriving in as far as small businesses and things that we're bringing out there. So come and get more information, join our cultural events, and thank you again for the opportunity. And if I spoke too fast, I'm sorry, I'm Latina. Bill, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maria, we're kind of a little tight on time, but one last thing, how could people join the chamber? Real quickly.
Yes, quickly. We just offer some free memberships. You might still be able to catch them. Why don't you send me an email? But you can just go onto the website, mbhcc.org, and right there, a membership page. If not, write to me, info@mbhcc.org, and that email comes to me and ask me, and I will let you know and give you instruction. We have a 50% off all membership levels going on right now. 50% off all the membership levels. So we're looking forward to new members. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. Take it away, Adrian.
Okay, again, we want to thank all of our program participants today. You shed some insight that's very valuable to our participants. And again, thank you to our production team. We have one last virtual town hall coming up for contractors. If you are interested, please send us an email at maatownhall@bwiairport.com. I want to remind everybody we are sending a follow-up email with the slides, a recording of this event, and any questions we could not cover during the program today. Keeping you all informed is very important to us. BWI Marshall is active on social media. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. In closing, on behalf of the Maryland Aviation Administration, we want to thank all of you for attending. Your support and participation are very important to us. This concludes our program. Be safe and stay well.